Bitcoin has been pumping, but you are being lied to at the bigger move Bitcoin is brewing right now. The lies need to stop. They're being spread all over social media, mainstream media. You are being bombarded with these false narratives and these false hopes and these hopiums about what is happening right beneath your nose. And today I'm going to unveil it, and the lies will stop right now. We need to put a stop to the BS, and you need a sense of reality about what the bigger underlying move is that Bitcoin is in right now and how this thing could break wide open, because I do not want you to be on the wrong side of the fence on this one. And in today's video, we're going to dig into the pure, cold hard, bona fide facts, and the lies need to stop. Let's get into it. Here we are on the Bitcoin US dollar index, and today we're on the weekly chart. On the weekly chart, there are a few things that we have been watching for. We have been waiting patiently for this stochastic RSI cross. We're looking good. I want to give the latest. We have been waiting patiently for a bounce specifically off the 44 area, as we have held that area as key support or resistance dating back through every single market cycle and starting all the way back in February 2012. Every single market cycle, this level right here, this 44 on the weekly, has been historic. In fact, for the entirety of the bull, this has been the key level. We've seen a bounce from that. So what's my opinion now? Has my opinion changed? Is there a hidden bearish message right in front of your face, right around here on the chart? We're going to get into that. Now, I want to talk about the obvious right here. The obvious is very simple. In 2021, we had incredibly strong bearish divergence, which marked the absolute market cycle top, meaning this red circle here was a high. This red circle here was a higher high, 300 days apart. What did we just have? Well, we just had a high back here in March 2024. And then we had a higher high here back in the beginning of this year. That was 300 days apart, just like the 300 days apart here. At the same time that we made these higher highs, our indicator, the RSI, made lower highs, represented here, December 2020. Look right here, we made a lower high here while making a higher high in price. That's textbook bearish divergence. Typically, you'll find bearish divergence at market cycle tops. Plain and simple. Bearish divergence typically marks this market cycle top. And by the way, in 2021, this was not Bitcoin's first rendezvous with the bearish divergence marking the market cycle top about 300 days apart. That was not the first time. That was the second cycle. Keep in mind, Bitcoin hasn't been alive for many cycles, and two of them were exactly this pattern. And we've just done that exact pattern. I just want to state the obvious. We just did 300 days apart. We just did bearish divergence. And by the way, we had this anomaly in the green box, where the green box is the 21 SMA. And when price goes below that, it typically goes below that, sending a shockwave into the market right in between these 300 days apart. So 150 days right in between, price jumps below this 21 SMA, causing confusion around the crypto space. What happened back here in this green box? It was the same thing. We mysteriously dip below this green box right in between our red circles. That's not an accident. That's a repeat of history. And people may say, oh, it's because it's manipulated. No, humans are very predictable with emotion. That's what trading and investing is. You have to understand human psychology. Each person who's watching this video is like, I'm not predictable. You're ridiculously predictable. In fact, look at the charts. That's predictability of human behavior at its finest. An exact repeat of the exact pattern, because humans act the same way when price goes up, and then humans act the same way when price goes down, and then humans act the same way when price goes up again and creates a new all-time high. That creates the same exact emotional reaction to an all-time high in the market after going through this turmoil. And then when you follow that up about this fall into this red box, it's just everybody's emotional reaction to price, and it's very predictable. unfortunately, which is why we have market cycles. Market cycles broadly, which we cover here, I absolutely love repeating patterns in market cycles. It's purely a reaction to everybody's emotional reaction and be able to predict what their next move is going to be. So what we want to look at and dive into now that we're like, okay, this psychological thing plays a bigger role than I thought. I've just stated all sorts of facts where you're now starting to think about it and be like, that actually makes sense, right? It's why the stock market has cycles. Why does every bull market act the same? Why does every bear market act the same? Why do they around the same time? Why is it history repeating with these cycles? These are all, humans are easy to predict, plain and simple. Thank you to everybody who commented in last week's video with what video you wanted me to make next. Now, I've been getting tons of messages, tons of DM, tons of emails about the 15 charts, my 15 charts, and what they're saying about the market cycle top. I've been getting people begging to cover this. I want to do a deep dive of these 15 charts. You can see when I make a YouTube video, I cover one chart. I can barely do it in 25 minutes. I want to cover these 15 charts, and I want to give you access to these 15 charts. But I don't want to do it in just a simple way. I want to do a deep dive with strategies that can really help, strategies that can really make a difference. Strategies of like, what should I do with these altcoins that I'm holding? Is the top in or not? Should I sell these altcoins and buy back in? When should I take profits? Should I hold? When should I buy more? I want to cover all of that and more. And I'm going to make a 5 to 7 day masterclass diving deep into these 15 charts and providing tons of value in specific strategies to help you dominate in this market cycle. But I want you to answer a specific question. What's one simple and clean strategy that I can help you with right now? Just one. What's that one thing that you want to know more than anything for this market cycle? Is it, hey, I'm at a huge loss with these altcoins and I want to know when to sell them? Or should I keep holding these altcoins that I've been holding since 21? Should I sell all my portfolio? Is the top in? What should I do with future altcoins? Should I buy back in? When should I buy back in? I want to know from you in the comments down below. I don't want to make just an explosive masterclass on these 15 charts. I want to go way above and beyond that and create an extraordinary masterclass that can help you make significantly more money and solve the biggest issues that you have in crypto right now that have maybe been causing you a lot of stress, not just today or yesterday or last week, but has been on your mind for years and you just don't know how to get over this. You don't know what strategy to use in these certain situations. And I want to create an incredibly strong masterclass, something that I've never created before. And I want your feedback to help mold that. And I'm going to be reading everybody's comments and come up with a strategy that's really, really going to help a lot of people. So leave your comment down below right now, and I can't wait to see what you have to say. You want to be on the other side of the fence. Whatever all of the humans are raving about, it's usually time to sell. And whenever the humans are bashing something, it's time to buy. And whenever the humans are really, really scared about a certain investment, it's time to buy. And whenever humans are so bullish about a certain investment, it's time to sell. Plain and simple, for the history of time, that will be true. The reason why it's really hard to do that is one word: emotion. We use our emotion to quantify, well, everybody is saying it's going to go up, but you get so caught up in it going up. You get so emotional about it. You've heard it so many times. You've seen it so many times. And humans just like to follow each other. We'd like to be similar to each other. We do not like to be different. We're trained that way from a very early age in every aspect of life. So that is why markets act the way they do. And you'll see every single time everybody says, it's market manipulation. That's what they said back here. That's what they said here when we called for a mega crash back in 2022. They said it was market manipulation. At the bottom of the market, market manipulation. Bull run, market manipulation. Struggle here, they'll name like all of these things and everybody will just tag along. So the lies need to stop and we've got to dig into the facts. The facts are, we've just repeated the same pattern as 2021, and I'm going to break it down into 3 scenarios of how this could play out. I'm going to create to you the most bullish of the bullish scenarios, the one that knocks everybody's socks off, the one that breaks this bearish divergence, throws it in the garbage, and your favorite altcoins explode. I'm going to tell you what would have to happen in this chart right here for us to give a huge clue that that will happen. And at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you how probable that is of a scenario. Now, the second scenario is, okay, how about a gruesome outcome? What is the most gruesome outcome that could happen with this chart right here? And what is the big clue that will lead us there? And once again, how probable is that to play out? And then I'm going to give you a scenario in the middle. You know, maybe it has a little bullishness, but it also has a lot of bearishness, and there's going to be a lot of fake outs. How possible it is that scenario to play out. And out of those three scenarios, the most bullish, the most bearish, and something in between, what is the most probable scenario to play out of the three, and why? That's what I want to get into now. Let's start with the most bullish scenario. What would have to happen? By the way, before we get into the most bullish scenario, let me point out something really, really blatantly obvious. We have bearish divergence. It's easy to look at it now and see in retrospect, yeah, there was bearish divergence, you know, all of that time ago back in the beginning of this year, maybe that was bearish divergence. It's easy to look back and be like, well, months ago, was that bearish divergence? It's easy to look at that now. What is difficult is to foresee problems when everyone is bullish. That's what we did about 9 months ago now. 9 months ago now, I'm going to roll this clip and you can see what I warned everybody about 9 months ago. Check out my warning, roll the clip. And the only thing that's going to save the day is the weekly stochastic RSI. That has the capability to lead Bitcoin to a new all-time high. The problem is once we get to a new all-time high, we're going to need to avoid ridiculously strong bearish divergence. That means the weekly RSI has to make a higher high, higher than 88, something that it's only done a few times in the history of Bitcoin. So in that clip, we were waiting for a stochastic RSI cross up, which inevitably happens about twice per year. And we got that cross. And I said, look, when we get that cross, it could definitely bring us to an all-time high. The market will be incredibly excited. Everybody will be ridiculously bullish. Everybody will be chanting for the moon, but it's highly likely that we're going to have bearish divergence. This is what I warned everybody about 9 months ago. It's easy to look at that and say that now. I told everybody 9 months ago to be prepared for that. Why? Because we've done it before, not once, but multiple times. And when we have bearish divergence, everybody's going to be so focused and fixated on the bullish scenario, and they're only going to talk about the bullish scenario. So what happened when we got above 100K? It was just bullish. Everything is bullish, right on schedule. I warned everybody 9 months ago, the stochastic RSI cross is likely to bring us to an all-time high, and we're highly likely to have bearish divergence when we reach said all-time high, and bearish divergence typically marks market cycle tops. Here we are today, it's playing out. By the way, on Tuesday, I dropped an exclusive bonus video. Normally, I put Tuesday's video out on YouTube. I wanted to show a lot of love to my students, and I asked them in last week's video to leave a comment with what one video they wanted covered. We did an explosive video, and it's private for all of my students. So attention to all of my FFA students, my course bundle students, my indicator bundle students, my prior masterclass students. You have free unlimited access to that exclusive bonus video, so go watch it. It'll be right in your email. If it's not there, look in your spam. It will be there. If there's some problem, email me and we'll get it settled, but you will have that video. So go check it out. It's explosive. So let's get into those three scenarios. Let's talk about which one is the most probable based on the facts we have. Scenario number one, bullish. Altcoins bullish, everything explodes. What has to happen? This stochastic RSI cross on the weekly has to be so powerful that it flips the 2-week stochastic RSI, and that has to continue to push momentum up. We cannot fall below 44. In fact, we get so bullish, price goes up to a new all-time high so high that this RSI right here knocks out the prior swing high of this one here at 80, which would null and void any bearish divergence, meaning the bearish divergence that we have right now, that's inevitable, that we have right now, cannot deny, cannot debate, that can be broken under one scenario. Under the scenario that this RSI gets higher than 80 in this next leg up. That would textbook-wise break the bearish divergence. Why? Well, if we created a new all-time high, we would have created a high and a higher high and yet another higher high. Well, at the same time, our indicators created a high, a lower high, and we're saying this has to get above this, which would null and void. There would be no more bearish divergence. It would be broken. In that scenario, that would be the most bullish scenario possible for Bitcoin. At that point, it would likely be we would have more room and more legs to go higher, and your favorite altcoins would also explode at the same time. That is the most bullish scenario. At the end of the video, I'm going to talk about how likely is that to play out. Let's go scenario 2, most bearish. What would have to happen? What do we look at the chart? 44 on the RSI, on the weekly. If that's broken, that's a telltale sign more downside is to come, not up for debate. Price. Any move of price with the body of a candle closing below 70 would be another telltale sign, an early warning sign. And third, a fast cross down of the stochastic RSI, meaning we could be in a rally, we could see a continued bounce in the RSI, we could see continued move in the stochastic RSI, but any failure in price to make a new all-time high, meaning even if we got above 100K, but we didn't create a new all-time high, and then we were maybe around getting resistance at 62 in the RSI, and maybe we even made it up until 70, but we got resistance there. But any move in that scenario and a reversal is the most bearish of the bearish scenarios. In other words, we would do what we did the last time we got out of the red box, which was bloodbath. That's what we don't want to happen. That's the most bearish of the bearish scenarios. In other words, it would be an absolute completion of the pattern that we did in 21, meaning the top is already in. That's the most bearish of the bearish scenarios. And an early warning sign is a breach of this 44 or price closing below 70. Both of those would be a huge red flag. Now, what about a mix of the two? This is a wild scenario, and it would create a lot of turmoil because it would be the biggest fake out. What do I mean? Well, what I mean is we could have stochastic RSI cross up so strong that it flips the 2-week. We have a 2-week stochastic RSI and a weekly stochastic RSI. We do not break 44. We do not have price close below 70. We see price start pumping and everyone gets excited. And maybe we get up around 100K and everyone is freaking out. And they're saying this is it. And this is the next moonshot. And the RSI doesn't get above 70 and price never makes a new all-time high. That could be a continuation of what we see here, but how this could flip on its head and fake everyone out is we do create an all-time high. And everyone starts saying, this is it. This is the new all-time high. And as soon as we get to that all-time high, we are not above 70 on the RSI. And everyone says, yeah, don't worry. Don't. They're not even going to look at the 70, by the way. They're not even going to say, don't worry about it. They're not even going to look at it. They're just going to know we're at an all-time high, and they're going to think we will keep pumping. But I'm telling you right now, if we get to a new all-time high and the RSI is not above 70, it's a telltale sign that we're about to have a massive fake out, bigger than anyone could imagine. But let's say Bitcoin does the unthinkable. It creates that new all-time high. The market starts pumping. Everybody starts freaking out, but we failed to get above here. And as soon as we create that all-time high and everyone starts freaking out and we're not above the 70, the stochastic RSI crosses down and this thing plummets, and this thing plummets fast, faster than you can imagine. That is a very realistic scenario. That's called a continuation of this bearish divergence. In other words, we create a higher high in price. Yes, a new all-time high. And we create yet another lower high in the stochastic RSI. Meaning we create bearish divergence for yet another move in Bitcoin. Keep in mind, Bitcoin has had multiple times where it had bearish divergence mark the market cycle top. However, in every single scenario, there are only 2 data points. the high and the higher high. We've never had a high, higher high, and higher high. We've never had 3 data points in a row, and maybe this is the first rally in the first cycle that can do that. That would be the biggest curveball because everybody would be so excited at that moment, and then it would be like the rug ripped from under their feet and they would fall right on their heads on the grounds. It would be a bloodbath. It would be an absolute bloodbath. So which scenario is the most likely right now? Keep in mind, with charts, everybody's going to tell you there are certainties in charts. And I'm going to sit right here and tell you, nobody on planet Earth knows how this is going to play out, including me. Nobody knows with certainty. Why? There is no crystal ball chart in trading where you can look at one individual chart and it tells you with certainty what's going to happen. You would need a confluence of charts, which is why my 15 charts that I look at, that I know, like, and trust for the market cycle tops, that's what I look at. I don't look at one individual chart. Now, when you look at these charts, and this one in particular, which one is the most likely scenario? What traders and investors need to focus on is not certainty, it's probability. Every trader who's successful tries to trade on that probability, using a distinct strategy in minimizing risk and maximizing reward with said probability. Now we've presented 3 scenarios. Which one is most likely? The most bullish of bullish scenarios that breaks the bearish divergence? How about the most bearish of bearish scenarios that absolutely plummets before we even rally? Or a mixture of the two where we get so bullish everyone freaks out, we get a new all-time high, but then we actually just continue our bearish divergence and that new all-time high is very short-lived and that thing starts to plummet and plummet hard. I would say out of the 3 scenarios, one of them is the least likely. That's the most bullish of the bullish. Why? We don't have any evidence in the chart we're looking at right now to suggest anything of the sort. Therefore, it would be absolutely ludicrous. It would show that we have an absolute lack of education for us to sit here and say that that's the most likely scenario when we have no actual data. That would be silly, and we would never do that. Therefore, that is the most unlikely scenario at the moment. Can that change? Yes, it's all dependent on the RSI and a new all-time high. But until then, until we have facts, it's unlikely compared to the 3. Now, the other 2 scenarios, I would say both of them have a chance. Both of them involve bearish divergence, which we've showed has marked market cycle tops in multiple cycles in crypto. Leave a comment down below. Which scenario do you think is going to play out?
This bull run is our road to 500,000 subscribers, but I need your help. Today, tell one person about our YouTube channel, how we spit facts, go against the herd, take no paid sponsorships of any kind. Road to 500,000, let's go.